I'll admit it, I'd thought about stealing money before. I don't guess I was the only one either. The Depression got you to thinking that way. I mean, you might be walking down the street and there in a bakery window would be a huge, big, gooey chocolate eclair. And you'd be hungry anyway from only having had one sandwich and a glass of milk for lunch. And your mouth would start to water and you could actually feel what the eclair would taste like in your mouth. But it would cost a nickel, and you couldn't waste a nickel on an eclair. Or some friend of yours would have a terrific new fielder's glove, all dark brown leather with a big built-in pocket so you could hardly miss a grounder even if you tried. All you'd have would be your old glove with half the stuffing falling out that you'd bought from some kid for $1. And you'd go around thinking about your friend's new glove all day, trying to figure out a way to get $5 for one too. But you knew that even if you could get $5, you couldn't waste it on something like a baseball glove when you needed a new winter coat. Or like on the 4th of July, some of the kids would have a whole bunch of firecrackers, cherry bombs and torpedoes and ash cans and stuff. And all you could afford was a couple of packages of ordinary firecrackers. Well, those are the times that your mind might get onto the idea of stealing. I had a daydream about it the next afternoon at Conklin's, where I worked sometimes. Conklin's was just an ordinary little grocery store. There was a counter down one side with a coffee grinder screwed down onto it, and a meat slicer too for cutting cold cuts out of the delicatessen case. You worked them by hand. They had come out with electric ones, but Mr. Conklin wouldn't buy them. "Anybody who's too lazy to turn a crank handle on a coffee machine can go work someplace else," he said. All the walls around the store were filled up with cans of soup and vegetables and bottles of soda and tomato juice, and packages of soap and cereal and dried prunes and bags of flour and sugar and bread and all the other things you buy in a grocery store. Downstairs there was an old basement that smelled like dust and wet cement, where we stored the cases of food before they were unpacked. I spent a lot of my time down in that basement, unpacking stuff, sorting it out, or making inventories to see what we needed. It was pretty terrible down there because there weren't any windows and just one plain light bulb for light. It was kind of like being in a prison cell, especially on a nice day when I knew the sun was bright and warm outside and the air was fresh. It was much better when I could work upstairs at the counter, getting the things down from the shelves as people asked for them, adding up the prices on a paper bag, and then packing the bag and carrying it out to the car if the person came in one. Sometimes if there were a lot of bags to load in the car, they'd tip me a nickel or even a dime. Old man Conklin was pretty cheap. He paid me $1 for working all day Saturday and 50 cents for working afternoons after school, which was only some of the time. So when I'm working down in the basement unpacking cartons or sweeping up the store or washing the windows or something, I usually have a daydream so I can stand the boredom. My daydreams are usually about stealing or being very powerful or even sometimes about killing. I admit, I'm kind of ashamed of my daydreams. I mean, it isn't too good to daydream about killing or stealing all the time. If it's a night dream, you can't help what you dream about, but with a daydream, you can choose. So you're sort of responsible for what you daydream about, and sometimes I feel guilty. But if I'm going to get really concentrated on a daydream, it has to be something that interests me, and the things that interest me are pretty bad. Anyway, this day stealing was on my mind, and I figured I'd have a daydream about robbing somebody. I thought about who it might be, and I decided on Mr. Conklin. I'm down in the basement with Mrs. Conklin doing an inventory, and she says, "I have to go home and fix supper, Jack. You'll have to finish this up by yourself." She gets her purse from down off a shelf where she put it and goes up the stairs out of the basement. I wait a few minutes for her to go outside and get on her way home. Then I pick up the broom we keep down there and take a baseball swing at the light bulb. It goes splat, and the place is in total darkness. I fumble my way to the top of the stairs. Old man Conklin is waiting on a customer. I stand there at the top of the stairs until the customer is gone. Then I say, "Mr. Conklin, the light bulb in the basement exploded." He says, "What? How could that happen?" I say, "I don't know. All of a sudden it just blew up. I was lucky I didn't get cut. I didn't want to mess with it." He sort of grumbles and gets a flashlight off the wall under the counter.